Hello and welcome to MGP293. I'm Kev, and with me this week I have Pab and Bouncy. Say hello, boys and girls.
Hello.
Hello! Now I know a lot of you are probably watching this on the video version. There is still the audio version that you're listening to if you're doing audio-ness. And for those of you who are listening, we're on location in London because we've been out and about today at EGX Rezzed. Where's yours gone?
I took mine off.
Pab's still got his wristband on. We've been at EGX Rezzed, we spent the morning there, and as is usual when we go to these kind of events, we left just after lunch and we've been wandering around London for the rest of the day. So for those of you who are watching the video, and this is why the audio people should head over to youtube.com/maturegamerpodcast because you'll be able to see the video version, but this is the part of London that we're in. I've just hit Pab on the head with the camera. Let's play Spot the Landmark. There's Churchill War Rooms just there, and some old lady lives in a big house that way, I think. But yeah, how did we find Rezzed, gentlemen?
Go on, Pab. Based on the hour or so that I was in there.
Did you even make it an hour? I mean,
yeah, we did an hour.
Me and Bouncy got down at like 10:30 this morning. We were in there from 10:30 until you decided to just swan in and join us at about 12ish, half 12, 1 o'clock.
It was about 10 to 1.
10 to 1, Pab gets there. And we did do a whole other lap after Pab arrived.
Yeah.
And then we headed out at, I guess, 2, half 2ish. So actually we spent more time in Rezzed this year than I think I ever have before. Even that first year when we went to the one when it was still at the NEC. And we spent most of the day in the pub, but we were still on location at Rezzed for most of the day.
Drinking mustard.
You did drink mustard, which again is a little treat for the people watching the video. I might even overlay that old Vine clip of Bouncy drinking mustard.
Yeah, it's funny. That was at the point where I think that day I drank a bottle of Sambuca on the way.
We were very disappointed in you that day.
I was very disappointed in me as well, and yeah, you all took advantage of me and made me drink mustard for everybody else's viewing pleasure. But it was very funny.
Didn't take advantage of it. I'm pretty sure I paid you, just like I paid you today to run up some stairs.
You did, yeah. That was £4, well earned.
Yeah, if Anna's watching or listening, I didn't pay him anything to do anything. For everybody else, Bouncy decided to walk up a flight of stairs in the tube, quite a long flight of stairs while me and Pab took the escalator.
Really steep flight of
stairs. And
stairs.
he was like a beetroot when we got to the top, just wheezing. And obviously it was just halfway through, ready to go up to the next flight. So I said, if you do the next flight, I'll give you £4. And off he went and did the next flight as well.
It was like a British remake of Rocky, but at the end of it, Rocky died of a heart attack that he should have died of in Rocky 3. Rocky 3 should have died in. No, because then we went to Dolph Lundgren.
You'll get 4.
End of 4.
What are you two talking about? What's Rocky?
It's a chocolate biscuit with like a red and white packet.
Nice. I actually played some games at Rezzed this year. How many games did I play? Three? Three games, which again is a new personal best for me. I am really, really trying. If you want to see some show floor footage of me at Rezzed, then you'd want to check out. Did I play 4?
You played 4 games.
Check out my vlog that comes out later today because there's lots and lots of Rezzed stuff on there. But so what were the 4 games I played? I can remember playing
the Shopkeeper.
Grip. I played because I got the wristband for it.
Yeah, Shopkeeper.
Oh,
2.
The Shopkeeper. Oh.
Which sadly there's no video footage of, but I've got photos.
That was the most difficult tutorial I've ever done in my life.
The tutorial said, look at the NPC's feet, and Kev just walks around for a bit. And then when told to look at his feet, he looked at his own feet that were non-existent.
I would like to point out that when you do a tutorial, I'm a console gamer. I'm sat there on a PC, firstly trying to work out how the keyboard and mouse nonsense works. But when it's a tutorial, I expect it to pop up in big letters in the middle of the screen and make it so it's the only thing you can do. If it wants me to look at that man's feet, then it should force me to look at his feet and not do anything else. I'm not going to read something that's in the corner of the screen. It's not obvious that you have to read it. There's loads of stuff that appears in video games that I don't read, so I just wandered around a bit. And the man came and tapped me on the shoulder. And you go and look at you got to look at the feet. So first thing I did was look down at my own feet, obviously, because he told me there was no one in front of me at the time. I didn't even have any feet. And then
the fact that the person telling you looked like the person who was stood in front of you.
I didn't look at him.
Then you couldn't sweep a floor. You didn't know how to pick up a hammer. Your pricing gun. Then
I don't know how
then you broke the game
inventories
completely.
work.
Just made a big floating arrow appear.
Yeah, I don't know how inventories work in games.
The game itself was, I mean, it's early looking.
What is the? I mean, I was so lost in it. I don't even know what the game is.
Talking to the producer guy, he explained that tutorial was put on because people didn't know what to do. So they made it completely idiot-proof.
Really?
And then when he was pointing out that you were struggling, I just pointed out that's fine. That's just a Kev thing. You don't need to worry. Most people will read a series of instructions that appear on screen.
I disagree. There are loads of unattentive children out there who aren't going to read that as well.
They probably shouldn't be playing a shopkeeper simulator though, because how many children run
that what it
successful
was?
businesses? It was called Shopkeep 2.
Yeah, I thought it was going to have like a twist.
Probably is got a twist, but basically it's Minecraft but owning a shop. That's what he said. So you build whatever shop you want, you choose the prices.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. And so if you'd have got through all of the tutorial stuff, you might have got to the good bit, but you were just running around in circles, sweeping floors. But again, that's the problem with a lot of games. Like how many first-person shooters go, press this button to crouch to get under this, and like you've already done it, but it still comes up on screen because it's instinctive.
Yeah.
But with a game like that, like there was an inventory system where you had to equip the item by putting it on into your hand in the inventory system, which is a pretty standard inventory system thing.
But it was already,
do that kind of
and
stuff.
it was already on screen. That was what was really confusing me about the inventory thing. The thing that he was telling me I had to equip, I think it was a bottle of water or something.
Yeah,
and there's a
picked it
bottle of
up.
water on the screen. I'm holding it in my hand, and he's saying, right, you need to put it down on there. Okay, nothing's working. Yeah, you have to equip it first, but it's right there in my hand. What do you mean I have to equip it? I can see it. Just put it down.
But you might want to store it. You might want to use it. It would give you that flexibility. But you know, it was next door to a game which was basically the little Brio wooden train set, which I really wanted to play, but people wouldn't get off.
You saw that and like the look of that, didn't you?
I've nearly bought it on Steam a couple of times in the last 2 weeks. It looks really cool and very chill.
Yeah,
chill.
It's a very zen game.
I want to play it while listening to the original Thomas the Tank Engine theme tune. Or even just humming it myself. I won't do it because you'll have to pay a royalty.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. Are you going to do it that well?
I
think we're good. So that was one game that I played.
Yeah.
I played Grip. Which we both got wristbands for, and MGP old school shout out. We got a Shaq Fu wristband as well. We didn't play Shaq Fu because there was a big queue for it. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. I thought that was it you clearing your throat? I thought someone would come up behind us. What are you doing, gentlemen?
Could look there on this little screen. See.
I can't see it. The lens is in the way. I have no idea. I don't even know if I'm in frame.
If the police turn up, I will warn you in advance.
Thank you. So yeah, we played Grip, which is a racing game. What are you doing?
Just looking out for police.
Okay, good. It's a racing game where it's one of those things like where you have the wheels that are bigger than the car. So if you flip it over, you can keep on driving. I'm sure it's all grounded in accurate physics.
There's a real remote control car that does it.
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know about these things.
Tyco first bought them out, I think, if I remember right.
But surely when it flips over, it would go in the opposite direction.
They do.
But they didn't in the game.
They didn't because they've obviously adapted the drive shaft to
for idiots
be more
like me.
Well, you do get the wrong way if you go upside down on the roof and drop the wrong way. You then end up facing the wrong way. Because basically you've got super grip. That's where the name comes from. It's not called Skiddy McSkidskids. So you drive a car. It's very similar to Activision's Blur, which I loved, but more off-roady and a bit kind of. It reminded me a little bit of MotorStorm. And it reminded me a little bit of...
It did have a bit of a MotorStorm feel about it.
Yeah, just sort of like that dirty, kind of combat-y thing. Bit of Twisted Metal,
It was just fun being able to... Whenever I play a driving game, I will always just crash. But this time, I would crash and just go up on the walls. And if I still crashed, I'd go up on the ceiling. And then I got stuck on top of a mountain while Bouncy won the race.
How many cars can have the grip to drive a mountain?
Exactly.
These cars.
It was good. No, I enjoyed it. Is that like a big game? Is that?
No.
Because I was going to say, I don't know if it's something I'd want to spend 40 or 50 quid on, but
I think
if it's a 15, 20 pound indie game, then...
Yeah. And I think because it's up to 10 players, so if you've got 10 real people all playing together, that was carnage. Early on, everything was going off. And the weapon system, it's got a sort of tracking system that will highlight what you can shoot at, which is quite good, because normally you think of Mario Kart, if you haven't got a red shell, it's pretty much in the hands of the gods or incredible skill, but mostly hands of the gods. This was, you can shoot that if you want, as you come around the corner, you can highlight it. So you can shoot a barrel, which might then impact...
Plus it had shields as well, which tactical implementation of a butt shield.
Which looks like a Daft Punk helmet.
It did. So
quite cool.
They're two games.
Then you played the weird colour button one.
Oh, the racist game.
It's not racist.
Basically, Bouncy won a sprint against a one-legged man and is proud of himself for it.
It's still a win. Look at me.
It was this massive joystick thing
16 buttons.
16 buttons that all have different have lights under them that change colour, so they can change different colours depending on what you've got to do. And you wander around the game. What was the game even called?
I can't remember.
But you wander.
I played it a lot,
you wander around the screen, and then it tells you to do something, and
so
then
green will be
to do that thing. You have to press the coloured button. Yeah. So I was alright to begin with, because the first stage, all the buttons were the same colour. I could handle it at that point. But then the buttons started to change colours, and I was still loosely following along, but then they started doing weird little in-betweeny colours that I'm there just hammering what I think is the right button, and he has to step in, so it's that one. Because I'm pressing it's a different shade of yellow.
In all fairness, I was also just hammering buttons trying to remember what, because you have to try and remember what colour was the certain task. Anyway, and then occasionally a prompt will come up if nobody's doing it. So it might be you'll see a jazz mag on the floor and you'll study it with a microscope or with a magnifying glass.
Is that what it was? I thought we were reading.
No, it was a dirty mag.
Oh, I was already upset that I had to have a Wii on screen. There was a kid behind me who was laughing his head off every time we had a Wii or did a trump.
And the thing is, it will never come out on anything else. You couldn't do it. It's only that one thing. It's one of those experimental games that does these shows. But I mean, had you have had pure, proper normal eyes instead of your weird ones.
I'd have had normal eyes.
Yeah, normal eyes, right? You would still have struggled, because the whole point is it changes around, and then there's different, like you say, different shades are quite close to one another, and you're like, no, I know it's green, no, it's other green.
Okay.
But that was fun.
And what was the fourth game then?
The fourth game,
I don't remember anything else.
Sure you played something else. Maybe it was 3.
I know you dragged me through the board game section. We had a look.
West of Loathing.
You told me I had to buy West of Loathing on the Nintendo Switch, which, by the way, if you don't watch the vlog, I have changed my view on the Nintendo Switch from last week, and I now think it's awesome. More on that next week when we can talk about it properly and get Anna involved.
We all got Switches.
We have got Switches, yeah. The fact that Football Manager's now out on it, that's a big reason why I like the Switch now.
You pay 30 quid for the Switch?
Hey?
That is it, it's an expensive price tag.
I'm sure it is.
Forgot about that. But yeah, I won't be buying it for 30 quid.
I think it's great, and I have it.
I have no opinion on it.
Well,
you think it's too expensive?
It's just Nintendo, isn't it?
That's a proper balanced cohort of hosts there. We didn't all just like go, oh yeah, Football Manager's brilliant, did we?
There you go. If you're watching Sports Interactive, if you want us all to say nice things, you have to give us all free stuff. Apparently, only buying me off only buys one of us off.
I don't want a free copy. Give Pab a free copy.
Yeah, give me a free copy.
To be
I'll
honest,
be happy at that.
It'd be like giving a goose a hat. He wouldn't know what to do with it, would it? We saw a goose today.
We did. We've seen all manner of birds.
There's a squad of them.
Park.
We saw pelicans, which is a bit weird.
And squirrels, birds that look like squirrels.
And squirrels that look like birds.
Yeah, it's a weird park. What is this park that we're next to, by the way?
St James's Park.
St James's Park.
We had a good tour around, haven't we?
We were looking for somewhere where we can prop up the camera so that we could record a podcast, because we suddenly realised, in fact we didn't realise, we knew a week ago that we weren't going to be able to record a podcast any other way this week, yet still I'm massively underprepared to actually record a podcast. Are you taking a picture of us recording a podcast?
Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Right.
There you go. I realise that for the audio people I have to continue talking.
Yeah.
They don't know what's
talking.
going on.
You were saying what was going on.
I was.
You were taking a photo.
Yes, so, what else did we play? Did you play anything at all, Pab?
No, but this is the thing, I don't go to play these games, I go to looking what games that I would like or I'm interested in.
So what caught your eye?
I mean this year it's all about what will be good on my Switch.
Oh, only on your Switch?
No, I didn't like...
Well, they had Lumines. Is that a thing that was already out? Or?
Lumines, yes. It's a re-release of the first game.
So it's already out now. I can go buy that.
No, it's not out yet. I don't think.
Okay.
But it will be. It's a remaster of the original game that came out on PSP years ago.
Awesome.
We need to talk about the retro zone.
We do need to talk about the retro zone. Oh my word.
So if you sit and listening and you think retro games, what do you think of retro games? What do you think of? First game that comes into your head if you say retro game?
Tetris.
I thought Doom.
Tetris. I mean, for me, it's like Spectrum, Master System, because I'm an older guy. I'm an older guy.
Okay.
What I don't think is bloody Limbo or Fez, or all the other bullshit they were trying to pass
FTL was in there as well.
But I mean,
that
is as opposed to 12-year-olds. It probably.
But it's not an event.
But could you imagine a world where a 12-year-old goes in and goes, "Oh, look how archaic this game is with its 2.5D side scrolling."
Limbo still looked amazing. Yeah, it still looked beautiful.
Prey does.
It was.
Fez still looks.
But it was.
Like Fez.
Bouncy had a little bit of a crisis moment where he was down on the floor, head in hands.
And the people who'd organised the retro section were sat near me, and I could see them both hoping that I hadn't noticed they were there, because I could see quite how agitated. I mean, you weren't that fussed really.
No.
You were annoyed, but you weren't like the same level.
I was fascinated at the idea that we've now been coming to these events for so long. This podcast has been running for so long. So we only started going to these events when we started doing this podcast. So we've now been doing this for long enough to have seen games pre-release at shows that are now in the retro section of different shows. Fez, in particular, we played that before it was out at EGX like 6 or 7 years ago, I guess, and it's now in the retro section at a different EGX further down the line.
Yeah, it's almost like they've classed the 360 as a retro console now, which is weird. I mean, I think you've got to be completely redundant before it's completely retro. Because I mean,
are they still releasing new games on it?
I think
FIFAs and what have you, and the sports
But
games.
they still release them on PS2.
They do. They do in like Brazil and places like that.
Still, they still make Mega Drive games. They still make N64 cartridges. So you know, you can't use that as a benchmark. But I would say at least one full generation. I wouldn't. But I'd struggle to even say the original Xbox was that retro, to be honest.
No, I'd say before that.
Yeah.
I guess it depends how old you are. I think you think back to the games you were playing as a kid, because I would happily say, for example, Dreamcast is retro, because that's what I was playing as a late teenager. But
I mean,
you're
that was
like
20
15
years
years older than me. So,
Nearly swore, didn't swear.
so you probably think that's like cutting edge.
I bought that when I was an adult. That console.
That was the thing he said in there. I was playing these games when I was an adult with 3 children.
Yeah.
Don't know what point you're making. How many children do you have now?
Is, like, I wasn't just like 18. I mean, I could have been 18 if I was from like Bolton or something, but I'm not. Instead, I had my first kid when I was like 20. So when I was 3, I mean, it must be 26, 27 by that point. And to be that age and then see a game and then go, that's retro, that's awful. I mean, I'm sure there's a mature gamers podcast type thing. There's going to be people listening who are older.
There's going to be uproar amongst our core audience saying, "You what? Limbo is retro? I haven't got round to playing it yet."
I mean,
I'm still on my
glad.
pile of shame.
If that retro section had been at EGX, I think it'd have been burned to the ground by now. I think it's just because they chanced it with Rezzed. It didn't quite work out for them. They won't make that mistake again, hopefully. I mean, they took Fez off and they replaced Fez.
They did, because they were all just running on PCs, so they could swap the games out as and when. So it might even be, I mean, it was the people who run Play Expo, it was Replay Events who were running that section. So there's every chance that there's just a menu of games on there, and the first people who were in this morning selected those ones from the games that were available to play.
They did start in very early 90s and work their way upwards to modern day.
I guess.
There was a certain concerted effort to do that. What I think they need to do, and I say this quite clearly straight into camera, they need to sort their bloody ideas out. Just put not really retro section on one bit, that'll be fine. Like, do you remember these? Like Peter Kay routine.
The mad thing is, when you go to something like Play Expo, I don't remember ever seeing Fez or Limbo on the floor there. They don't go that recent in their retro section at those
There
events.
are 360s there, but I don't necessarily think they've got.
Usually it's if they've got like instrument games.
Yeah.
Or if it's a franchise, they'll sometimes do the history of a franchise. So they'll go through and they'll say, do you remember Sonic here? And then Generations was at a few of the shows.
I guess
that makes sense.
What they were probably
context.
trying to do was tie in with the whole indie theme of the event and have a history of indie games.
And show a load of LucasArts games and Bethesda games.
Yeah, but the older ones were like that. But the ones from the last 10 years,
if they'd have had
were all indie games.
if they'd have had Manic Miner and stuff like that, then fair enough. But they didn't. They had massive, great big games that were retro, and then they had games that were just made. They were featured in Indie Game the Movie. It wasn't Retro Game the Movie. If it was Retro Game the Movie, then I could have allowed it. Could have said, well, you've obviously read the brief wrong. You've watched.
Well,
the
let's remake it. That'd be the sequel, Retro Game the Movie, where they go back and look at all the same games again. That's coming out next year, everybody.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of a walk around. I mean, Tobacco Dock's a fantastic venue. It's a shame it doesn't get.
Awesome.
They could never make EGX work there.
No, it's too small.
You know, it's a shame they can't do something like
tight corridors
there. You know, just even if it's just like PlayStation took it over for a day and really showcased everything.
I went to the Upload event, the YouTube thing there back in September, where KSI and Joe Weller had their press conference thing. That was all there, and I mean, because that was an event that was focused around a genre of games, it was basically just FIFA and Pro Evolution and stuff like that there. It worked really well.
Yeah.
You had a room that just had the consoles in where you could go and play those games, and other rooms where you could do things like meet and greets and stuff like that. I think it worked quite well.
Yeah.
But it is an awesome venue.
Yeah.
I think we should have MGPX there.
I read the story about
all right.
the Tiger with the You know, actually, I'll tell you what we could hire for MGP, or you could hire for MGP. You know that garden we went to? 300 quid? 300 quid for a central London.
He's made us walk around so many gardens today.
2.
The man's obsessed. Yeah, that's more gardens.
One was St James's Park.
I usually walk through 1 garden in a day. It's my garden to get from my house to my garage. That's enough gardens for me. Thank you.
Well, no, it was just, you know, we just took a little side step. But no, 300 quid though to hire that entire garden and the building as well, which is pretty good for a central London site for the whole day.
Sheepdog. What am I thinking? He's not watching.
Phoenix Cafe.
Sheepdog, make it happen. The Phoenix Cafe in Soho?
I think it was sort of off of Soho Way, wasn't it? We were sort of
Make it
heading
happen,
back,
Sheepdog.
yeah.
So any other thoughts on Rezzed? It's going to be quite a short podcast this week, by the way, because I'm conscious of the fact that we have trains to catch at some point in the near future.
And the police might turn up.
Yeah, and you know,
Over there.
we're stood literally at the side of the street in the centre of London, so it's not going to be a full
Near
2-hour spectacular.
Near all like Parliament and Buckingham Palace and everything else.
But do we have any further thoughts on EGX Rezzed 2018?
I'd like to talk about Tim Schafer just for a second.
What, about how starstruck you were?
Yeah, so Tim Schafer's at EGX today. He got his award at the BAFTAs yesterday. BAFTAs, there's a bit of a mess really. There's a lot of games that should have won, but we won't get into that.
But if anyone wants to learn about What Remains of Edith Finch, there's a great series on my channel.
Yeah, there is. And so we went to the press area because Tim was in there being interviewed in advance of him doing his conference thing. So they're just checking what questions would be alright, which is always a good idea when you're going to interview somebody quite big like that. And all the time I wanted to just go over and say something, and then I couldn't. I was walking to go and get some water and they didn't have any cups, and that threw me, and I was starstruck, and I started talking out loud, and I said something about an apple, but I said apple, and then out loud I went, no, not apple, apple. So I was so starstruck I couldn't even say the word apple. And then later I tweeted about it, and then later on he saw me and he looked and he sort of waved, like a little kind of nervous wave, and he looked quite shy himself. It was really sweet, and I feel like we're
But neither of you said a word to the other.
no, we didn't need to. We have this sort of unspoken bond.
Or perhaps he was just afraid of you. He was waving you away. It's the apple man. Get rid of him.
The apple. If Double Fine publish a game where it's just a creepy monster called the Apple Man, then I want royalties. But yeah, we saw Stretchy Stretchy Dog game.
Yeah, what was that called? Fogs? Is that...
Fogs, physics dogs.
Yeah.
Or that dog game, as I said, and then the marketing bloke was a bit annoyed with us. No, Fogs.
Don't worry, Gang Beasts and Prison Architect were there again.
Oh, good.
In case you were worried. They've been, Prison Architect in particular, has been at every event I've ever been to. Which again, when you put that back into the context of Fez, which has gone from being a new release to a retro game in the time that Prison Architect has been exhibiting at shows as an unfinished game.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see Gang Beast in a way because it's out now, but it's a,
But the
it's a
first
good
time
party
we
game.
played Gang Beast was in Birmingham at Rezzed.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
you called us
interesting-
over to play it.
And that's the thing, at that point it didn't have a publisher. And we spoke to one of the guys there, like a friend of mine, in the PR room. I think Sheepdog and I went into the press area, and we were chatting to a guy there saying, like, don't say anything but Double Fine are interested, like Tim Schafer's company's interested. So I think although they go to all these shows, there was certainly a good presence of Double Fine games anyway.
Yeah.
Knights and Bikes was there, which I didn't get a chance to play, but as soon as it's out I'm all over it. But yeah, it is that sort of game though for that show. There was a couple of games that weren't there, and that one, Nature's Zombie Apocalypse, which
That's
always
the
been
one
a lot of them.
that's the one we were trying to remember the name of last week. Was that me and you, or me and someone else? I was trying to remember the name of that game with
Absolutely
somebody.
cracking game, and it's been at every event for the last couple of years. But obviously it's out now,
Yeah.
so they're not
But
paying
it
money
doesn't
to...
stop Prison Architect.
No, but the Introvision can afford it. I suppose if you're a proper indie, you can't just afford to keep paying it. I mean, we spoke to a lady who's making a game which is a cross between what's it called? Vanishing of Ethan Carter and Myst is how they pitched it to us. And it was great. She was trying to give us an idea of the development of the game. She just went, it's just us 4 people in Sweden, in a room, eating noodles. No development tips, no inspirations.
Eat noodles.
Just eating noodles. So if you want to make a game,
Noodles.
sit 4 of you, has to be 4, go to Scandinavia and eat noodles, and you will have
What
a
was
game.
that game called? That looked quite good.
I cannot remember the name of it, but we have got cards.
Yeah, I'll link to it down in the description.
It did look very good. I might
I don't
take
know
a
if I've
picture.
got the card's probably in my bag at this point,
Yeah,
so I can't
I've
figure
sort of
it out.
filed it away. I'll have a look while we keep talking, just in case I've got one on here. But there's a very interesting iPad game where you go inside people that look quite.
I just looked it up. I took a picture of that one.
I don't remember that at all. What was
No, well you don't.
Oh, that was the one you
That
two
one.
both took pictures of.
Yeah.
Homo
Yeah, yeah,
Machina. Machina.
Yeah.
That looked
so
good.
it's the man in the machine, or the machine in the man, I guess.
It's an
So it goes
iPad
to the
game by
machine.
lots of things. So.
Yeah. So it's basically like each layer of like inside is a little room. So it's like kind of the original. There's a game that kind of precursor to The Sims called Little Computer People. It came out years and years ago. Proper retro game. Why is that not in the retro game section?
No one else heard of it.
No, they had. Not everybody's heard of it, obviously, but it did inspire Will Wright when he made Sims. It was one of the things like SimCity and all that was inspired by Little Computer People. And the idea was with that is you had a little house and there was somebody in there who would react to your inputs. And it reminded me very much of that. Also, the Numbskulls comic that used to be in the Beano years ago, where they're all living inside their head and they're and inside out a little bit. But if you imagine inside out, instead of being so floaty and fairy and Pixar, it's actually like a tenement building, not like Grenfell Tower. Sorry, that's
yeah. We need some context there.
Context there is Pab had an adventure on the way here.
An adventure.
You did?
Some kid was obsessed with going to see Grenfell Tower on the train.
On the train down from Manchester this morning.
And it was that's put me.
Maybe they're on a global tour. They started at the Manchester Arena and are now heading to Grenfell.
Oh,
I mean,
Bouncy.
maybe.
No, but this is the thing. You get these weird. It's called what's it called? Dark tourism. Is that what it's called? Where you go to things like Chernobyl and stuff. There are people who find that fascinating, just being around that sort of drama. But that kid seemed to be like genuinely fascinated by it. Maybe that's his thing. But the parents didn't seem to approve of it, so that's good.
Right, have we got any more about Rezzed before we wrap things up and go and run and get our not run, but wander slowly and get our trains?
No, not particularly. But I mean, I'd say I always enjoy going to them.
I mean, we've been every year.
Yeah, even though I don't necessarily play anything. Like I say, I go there to look at what's coming out, what's games are out there in the indie world sort of thing, and what I want from a Switch.
I see Rezzed as a nice little palate cleanser at the start of the convention year. I know I do Birmingham Comic Con a few weeks before, but and Insomnia this year, but in previous years it's just been that, right, let's get us warmed back up, get back into convention mode. We'll just do the one day, don't want to tire the legs out too much, but it means we're fighting fit and raring to go when London Comic Con comes around.
And also, you don't pick up convention illnesses like you get the really busy ones.
Only because you didn't let me go in the ball pit.
There's a lot of open. Oh, that ball pit. There's a lot of open air. That ball pit. That's going to be a disease epicenter. that'll be a real world pandemic game by the end of it.
You get a game out of it.
Do you know the woman who was done that little microphone thing across her head earlier in that day? Kev had wandered off to the toilet and I was stood holding his camera outside and I almost wanted to film her because she was obviously reading from a script and she went, Amazon App Store, it's got games, loads of games, thousands games, not thousands of, just thousands games. You can get all sorts of games on the Amazon App Store.
Must have been a typo.
And I was thinking, there probably is thousands of games on the Amazon App Store, but why would I use that over any other App Store? Are you giving me stuff for free?
Because it's got thousands of games on it.
Thousands of games.
The best thing about the whole event, though, was the fact that there was an actual Argos inside the event.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy a kettle though.
We didn't try to buy a kettle. They had the
couldn't
Argos
buy a
book
kettle.
there. We didn't try.
You couldn't buy a kettle.
We didn't try.
All this stock was on the
Let
shop
us
floor.
know down in the comments or by tweeting into us or something along those lines if you went to Rezzed this weekend and bought a kettle.
How about more importantly, if you see this video before you go to Rezzed, queue up and ask for a kettle.
That would be
because that will
amazing.
really freak them out if people get going.
I mean, they've got the books there. Just take the book and have it open to the kettles page. Have you got this one?
Like a
No.
red Tefal kettle.
Have you got this one? No, and just work through.
Why
all
have you got the
kettles.
book here then?
Yeah.
Why is a book even? I
What a
who wants
misleading
and why
book.
would you want to carry that around with you as well?
When was the last time you had an actual physical Argos book?
I have them all the time, but that's because I've got kids and they like to pick out things that they want for Christmas.
That's
so I
why I don't have them in my house, so my
Yeah.
kids don't want things.
Yeah, I just tell them what they want, and then I say you can't have that, and this is why, and then they get like sticks or something.
Right, we are going to wrap things up here though. So firstly, if you're watching this on the video, let us know down in the comments if this is a format that you'd like to see when we do these events in future, because often when we come and do events we just don't do a podcast that week. If you've enjoyed us doing it this way, I guess this applies to you audio folk as well. Let us know and we'll try and do this stuff on these weekends in future, because I think it's been quite good standing here for half an hour. I think as long as the audio's come through okay. It might sound like a total mess, but usually when I just record video it sounds okay. So let us know what you thought of this format. Make sure you do all the usual stuff. I can't remember without being sat in my garage looking at my prompts. So we have Twitter at MGUK Podcast, or I'm Lelujo.
I'm at Pab 1986.
I'm at Bountiful with an H after the second B.
We've also got Facebook, facebook.com/MatureGamerPodcast, or you can check out all my YouTube goodness at youtube.com/LelujoFM or /KevinChapman1, depending on which of the two channels takes your fancy. And of course, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because, you know, if we're going to start doing video stuff every now and again, you want to be subscribed to that. Thanks very much for watching/listening. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.